thunder and lightning in Minecraft. To most players, it's just something that happens from time to time. But on the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft, thunderstorms have caused turmoil in ways that you wouldn't think would be possible. The only word I can use to describe the history of both thunder and lightning on 2b2t is chaotic. Admin created lightning storms that made players tremble in fear, thunder being used to locate and destroy bases, lightning storms that went on for actual days without end, weather being banned altogether, and glitched skeleton horses being spawned that had far more health than should have been possible. So many crazy things have happened with weather. Like anything regarding 2b2t history, there's a lot to talk about today. So let's get started. In Minecraft, thunderstorms were added to the game on April 19th, 2011 in beta version 1.5. It wasn't much later that 2b2t was updated to this version, and thunderstorms began happening on 2b2t. Weather in multiplayer was buggy at first, but throughout 2011, it would become more stable. Nothing truly notable happened regarding weather on 2b2t until 2012. On February 27th, 2012, longtime player XCC2 was walking near spawn and encountered something that had never been seen before. The server's admin, Housemaster, was experimenting with weather on the server and generated a massive lightning storm at 00, with bolts landing every single second. Walking into it meant instant death. Since Housemaster to this day is such a mysterious figure, him playing with lightning only contributed to the mystique surrounding him. Early footage of 2b2t is very rare, so the fact that XCC2 captured this moment on film is spectacular, and enough to make any 2b2t history buff go crazy. It also provides a great look at some of the earlier days of Spawn, as the giant lava casts that Spawn is known for today are missing. This would not be the first time House would generate a thunderstorm like this. On July 20th, nearly 5 months later, House would again create a powerful lightning storm, except this time, instead of all strikes being focused on a single block, they were spread out over the immediate area of 00. As seen here, 2b2t player ComputerTechie observed the storm from afar and decided to record himself getting closer. 00 was an absolute frenzy, with lightning strikes coming down everywhere. ComputerTechie himself was struck by lightning. Believe it or not, it's harder to be struck by lightning in the Java edition of Minecraft than it is in the Bedrock edition. This is because in the Bedrock edition, lightning must spawn closer to the player due to spawn distance limits. So to be struck in the Java edition without admin interference is quite rare. Many players use the /kill command to bring themselves to spawn to see the powerful storm. It was total chaos. House brought down the lightning hard, as players scrambled away from the dangerous electricity, trying not to get killed. It's possible that Housemaster generated other storms like this, but these are the only two that we have on record. After both of these tests had been done, weather went back to normal on 2b2t. Thunderstorms would happen from time to time, and never with the intensity of the spawn storms. However, these normal thunderstorms would prove to be even more dangerous than Housemaster's storms. The Thunder Hack is perhaps one of the most infamous uses of thunder and lightning in 2b2t history. It was an exploit that allowed players to find bases simply by using the sound of thunder. While it sounds scary, it actually has a pretty straightforward explanation as to how it works. The first 2b2t player to discover this method and use it was named Atrika. Thunder in Minecraft is actually a two-dimensional sound, as it only moves along the X and Z axis. The sound of thunder can be heard up to 160,000 blocks away, assuming you are in the overworld. Lightning can only strike in loaded chunks, meaning that a player must be online and have the chunks loaded in order for the sound to be created. Here's where the exploit comes into play. By having 3 accounts logged in at different locations and using each one to listen for thunder directionally, it's possible to triangulate where exactly the strike came from. While several players used this exploit, it was most notably used by Pop Bob to find bases, grief them, and kill the inhabitants. I was one of the victims of the thunder hack as Pop Bob triangulated the location of one of my fishing cabins back in the day, and killed me quite easily since, well, I was just fishing. After numerous complaints about thunder being used to find bases, House disabled thunder and lightning on 2b2t until a solution could be found and implemented. Even after thunder and lightning had been removed, Pop Bob and others were still able to grief bases since they had stockpiled a decent amount of coordinates during the exploit. It was a very dark time for 2b2t builders. For a long time, the sound of thunder vanished. Rainstorms and snowstorms would still occur on the server, but never a thunderstorm. It wasn't until spring of 2016 that thunder would be temporarily enabled. Since skeleton horses had been introduced in the 1.9 update, House brought back storms so players could obtain them, as well as using a fix with no cheat plus that prevented directional thunder, meaning the old triangulation method was useless. It's interesting to note that many of the skeleton horses generated from these storms had a whopping 25 to 26 hearts of health, far greater than what was intended in vanilla Minecraft. And because they were not targeted by withers due to their undead status, they became the most valuable horse to have on 2b2t, and they became necessities to have for the inhabitants of the spawn region. Even though the old triangulation method was useless, there were rumors that hack clients were able to intercept data packets being sent from players to the server regarding location of lightning strikes, meaning thunder hack was still potentially possible. House would disable thunder again about a month later, and it would be absent for yet another year. During this time, the skeleton horses that had been created from the storms slowly began to vanish. Whether they were killed in battle, were the victims of griefs, or simply lost and abandoned, these rare horses practically became ghosts. Lightning storms generating horses with this much health was actually a bug and not an intended feature, so Mojang patched the bug while thunder and lightning were disabled on the server for the majority of 2016. I am aware of at least one skeleton horse still in existence with this much health on 2b2t, though I would not be surprised if there are still a few others in existence, being kept a complete secret. I can't say I blame the owners. The horses are irreplaceable. In early 2017, after another year of absence, thunder and lightning returned to 2b2t. The skeleton horses that had practically become extinct were now being born into the world again. Except this time, the skeleton horses that were generated had only 7 hearts of health, the intended amount. The storms were quite frequent, and since this was the first time storms were enabled since the Russia War, a large number of players online meant that strikes would happen frequently. Occasionally, players would get hit by lightning, but thunder lasted a few weeks this time. But since over 100 players were on the server at any given time usually, the storms were happening a bit too frequently, and after more concerns of potential coordinate exploiting, House disabled storms again. They would be disabled for a year and a half this time, before House would bring them back one last time. In September of 2018, Housemaster brought back thunder and lightning for 3 days, seemingly out of the blue for no reason. Except this time, when the storm began, it didn't stop. For almost 3 days straight, the storm raged across the entire server, with lightning being heard almost every single second. Even if you had used the hack No Weather to turn off the rain, the thunder still raged on, and there were no moments of silence. This storm generated a massive amount of horses, and when I say massive, I mean we had never seen this many horses generated at one time before. It was wild. This led some to speculate that House had enabled this storm just to refresh the dwindling population of skelly horses, as well as create a few charged creepers. After the 3 days were over, the storm finally ended, and thunderstorms were disabled for the final time. To this day, House has not re-enabled them. Also to this day, you will still hear the occasional lightning strike of a skeleton horse trap being set off. The fact that even a year later, horse traps are still going off should tell you just how many horses were generated in the never-ending storm. Will thunderstorms ever return to 2b2t? Maybe, and I can assure you that if they do, there will be no warning ahead of time. Hopefully, you found this video shocking. Make sure to subscribe for more 2b2t content. Also make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram to stay updated on when new 2b2t content is coming out. That's it for today's video, everyone. Take it easy, and if you plan to play on 2b2t, just make sure to stay alive out there, Fit Fam.